Good morning, everyone. We are now approaching our third speaker series of the year. So we just finished Colloquium Week last week, and prior to that was our second speaker series on the COVID and the economic impact on the world. And we're now moving to our third speaker series, and this is on a coactive coaching model, which Dr. Jimmy Flores, who will be our presenter, he's also the Dean of the School of Business and Technology here at Aspen University. And he has a tremendous background. If you look at Dr. Flores' email signature, he has to use the alphabet twice. He has so many certifications, and he's one of the few people who is both doctorally prepared in business and doctorally prepared in technology. And that's such a powerful combination to have there, you know, and especially in today's world where you have to run businesses and you've got to have technology to do that. So let's go on and get started, Dr. Flores. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted here. I have pop-ups on people jumping in and wanting to be admitted. But I would say, let's get started, Jimmy, and you can begin.
Thank you so much. And first of all, I appreciate everybody being here. And I'm teaching a PMP class right now, and it's just started. So you all never know when you start a class for the first time. This is a 5-day course, so your mind is getting them going and such. And I was really looking forward to my lunch hour because I get to do something that is fun to talk about. And as Dr. Thrasher noted, and I'll call him Kevin because I've known Kevin for so long now, that my background is in education, but then I switched over I started at Shell Oil Company in Houston. And so my claim to fame there is I worked in a building right next to Enron. Now, some of you remember Enron, right? And the reason I say that is because some of my younger students will say, oh, you know what? I read that case study somewhere. So things changed after that. I managed a medical clinic for 3 years in Houston and moved to automating a lot of the systems back in the 90s. Remember in the 90s, we had a modem, and that's how we connected to the web. And so we were automating payment for managed care, Medicare, Medicaid. So that's what I was doing in Houston before working at Prudential. Then moved back here to San Antonio, Texas, where I live today. And I worked at USAA as an IT staff analyst. Now, for 25 years, I was a college basketball referee, and I retired from officiating 5 years ago. So what you saw yesterday was last night, if you saw Gonzaga versus Baylor. That's what I used to do for 25 years. And my wife kind of let me know that it was time to retire because of 25 years of doing that. I was on the road 10 years. I was not even home here in San Antonio. So I thought it was time that I meet my children. And so that was a good opportunity for that. And so I've been teaching not only at Aspen, but teaching at a university for 30 years and online for about 20 years. So today what I do is corporate training. And so I'm going to get into this discussion here in a second. So I do training in the sense of project management, PMP, IT training, like ITIL. I had a class last week for the US Air Force where we teach them how to earn a certification in different fields. And I also teach Scrum. And so Scrum is the reason that I took this program. So I just want to give you a quick idea on how I'm here today. So relative to this program, a friend of mine who's a Scrum trainer from India, he said, hey, Jimmy, I was visiting. One thing I forgot to tell you, I have a company where we provide this training, and my office is based in India. So I work out of our Indian office most of the time when I'm not here. People think I'm Indian, but I'm not. I'm Mexican American. But when I go to India, they just say, well, he must be another guy from here. So he said, hey, listen, there's this thing called CoActive that'll make you a better trainer. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, this CoActive Institute, and they're out of California. He goes, the way I did it was, he's from Bangalore, India. He said he had to fly from Bangalore to London to take this training, Bangalore to London. And so what happened in June, I said, you know what, I'm going to start looking into that. And there was a huge advantage. The advantage was that because of COVID, this entire program is now online. So the program itself cost about $11,000. It's like an MBA, kind of like a cheaper style MBA. But what I didn't have to pay was any travel costs to California, because each class you would have to fly and go to the class and come back home. So there were a total of 5 classes, and I did them all online. And the classes are about 3 days each, 3 or 4 days. Now that was tough because it was 3 full days, but what was a little harder was a 6-month certification program. And next week is our last class. We went 26 weeks where we met once a week for 26 weeks. So I'm ready for my Tuesday. And for me, I picked Tuesday at 6 a.m. So the class was from 6 a.m. to 7:30, which was good because I was done. So one of the pillars is people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. And so here was my dilemma. My dilemma was, I have a team of 25 people. And one of the issues that I have is that I really would like to separate myself from the day-to-day stuff. Because if I'm involved in the day-to-day work, I'm not doing the big picture things. So this concept of people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. The idea that people can make their own decisions. Now, let me ask you this question. In management or leadership, is it easy for leaders and managers to delegate? Is that an easy thing to do? What's a challenge? What's one challenge when you delegate? Think about you and your environment.
Well, Jimmy, I think it can be easy depending on the person, but a lot of times it probably isn't, because, most leaders, managers like to do everything themselves. They don't want to, delegate things to somebody else for a lot of different reasons, but, a lot of times they like to, pound on their chest. They're the leaders, let me do it, and everybody else follow me. So it's not as easy.
Well, and then look at this. I'm a business owner, right? So I started this business. Now I'm gonna have to say, okay, you do it. And there's a concept here called psychological safety. People want to be able to do the stuff they do without fear of what? Without fear of.
Tell me that again.
Well, people want to be able to make, people want psychological safety is about people making decisions, and stuff will happen without, say, micromanagement, but without the fear of repercussions, right? Negative consequences. And many people are like, no, I'm not going to do that. I used to have an employee at the medical clinic in Houston. Her name was Emma. She was a really loyal employee, but she was like, don't make me think, just tell me what to do. Don't tell me to think, just tell me what to do. Because if I make a mistake, I'm going to blame you because you told me to do it. There are still a lot of people like that, hey, I don't want to do that. That's this psychological safety and this idea of creativity, resourceful, and whole. I'm going to share a video with you that I used as I was finishing up a leadership program. It's a short 1-minute video. I want to get your thoughts. Get your thoughts on this video after I show it to you. So let me go over here and grab it real quick. About people being creative, about people thinking kind of crazy sometimes. So as I share this video at the end, I just want to get your thoughts. Here we go. So you should be able to see it now, right? Here we go.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
All right, so think about the work environment, think about people being able to be creative like this. What's possible from here when you have people with this kind of mentality, mindset? The fear, I mean, just the willingness to try stuff. What's possible from here?
Practically anything. I mean, if you're opening it up and asking people to be resourceful and you know, give me your thoughts, give me your opinions, and no holds barred, they're going to feel great about, you know, coming forth with different ideas and everything. But if you know, if the organization is not like that, then the employees are going to be tight-lipped about things.
Yeah, that's a good point, Juan. So I think there's some other comments in the chat, so I have to kind of move back and forth. But thinking about, is that normal? Is that mindset normal in companies today, where you can just be creative, resourceful, and whole, do your stuff, benefit the company, or is it different? Is there something different going on? Kevin says the difficulty is convincing people that they are resourceful and whole. And Lorraine says, not really, people have a hard time letting go. Those types of people make many of us uncomfortable until we get it, right? That's a good one. It's like, you know, meeting folks that are just thinking way out there. Now, I'm not saying that this happens overnight, because there's something about having the culture fit, organizational fit, and that's important. But the question that I asked you a second ago is a question that we learn in coaching. So here is the thing about going through this coaching program, is asking you, what's possible from here? What can you do knowing what you know now? Notice the questions I'm asking. What's possible? What's new? What have you not considered? Notice what coaching is doing. Am I in coaching telling people, do this, do that? Is that what I'm doing in coaching? If you think about sports and how sports works, when the coach meets with the team in the huddle, where does the coach go? Does the coach go into the game and play the game, or do they stay on the sidelines? Stay on the sidelines, right? Because now the team has to perform. And these are very important questions that I didn't even know before I went through this coaching program, because I was always solution oriented. Well, here's what I want you to do. Please get this done by 5 p.m. No, just make sure you get the report done in this format. What's the mindset if I'm always doing that with my team? Do this format. What happens when I'm taking that approach with them all the time? Tasks are important, not people, right? Limits them. Think about here at Aspen with faculty, if I'm always saying, well, as soon as there's a problem, escalate it to me because I will take care of it for you. I know Juan is also a program director there. If we're always doing that, then faculty are always pushing things to us that they can do on their own, and it doesn't allow them the opportunity to expand and explore on their own and creating that environment that we want. So yeah, Brandy says loss of creativity and new development. All right, good observations there. Let's move along here. So we're going to do a quick Zoom breakout. And here's a question I want you to discuss with your teams. I'll put little triads, maybe depending on the numbers here in a minute. Here's a question that I want you to discuss, and you can just go around your little Zoom breakout. What do you feel when you are at your best? What is that like? When you are at your best, what do you feel within you? What's the drive? What's the motivation? What's possible from there? So let me stop share. This is we call this a powerful question in coaching. What do you feel when you are at your best? So let me stop share. And Kevin, I think you have to do the breakouts because I don't think you made me a host, did you?
And I would not know how to do that, Jimmy.
Oh, okay. Let me see. All
I
right.
apologize, yeah.
Does it have breakouts at the bottom? Because if not, I always have an alternative.
Do not have a breakout button here, if that's what you're asking. On my menu, it doesn't show that.
No worries. All right. So this is what's called agile, and we're going to be agile. So, all right. So let's think about this. and maybe just quickly go around the room. What do you feel when you're at your best? One, since I know you from working with you, you can start. What happens?
When I feel, in regards to whatever,
Whatever,
when
like performing at your best with your work, in your workout routine, whatever it is, what's there for you?
well, when I'm at my best and I'm feeling my best, I mean, I feel like $1,000,000. I feel like nothing can stop me, and you know, I'm ready for action. So, I mean, when I'm thinking that you know, my education, my experience, everything is coming together just at the right time, and I'm doing the greatest that I can possibly do. Jesus, I think I'm on a cloud or something here, man. I mean, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night. You know, I'm feeling great.
I think I'll have to hire Juan to be my cheerleading coach here. Thanks, Juan. All right, let's since we're because of timing, let's do a couple more. Who else can share? What do you feel when you're at your best? What's there for you?
I can, if that's okay.
Shannon?
I would say I radiate positivity when I'm at my best. So I give that to other people. I'm better with my kids. I'm more understanding. I'm nicer. I get more done, you know? So like when I'm at my best, I feel like I can give that to everyone else.
So I'm going to do a little bit of coaching here because Shannon's got a good topic going too here. So I'm going to show you what would be that I've learned from being through the program. Okay. So this is something that I did not know how to do before because I was not trained, and I'm still working at it, obviously. So Shannon, you were talking about, you know, you're at your best and you're motivated and you're being a parent and so on. What's important about being a good parent?
Everything. You're shaping these little humans to be good adults, you know, good people, productive people. I mean, so it's really important what you show your kids. You're modeling things for them.
So I noticed, Shannon, when you were talking about your kids, that this is my intuition, that family is an important value to you.
Yeah.
When your children do well and you are committed to helping them, what's possible to you as a person, as an individual?
Oh, I mean, it's just so awesome. You know, I don't want to project anything onto them, like you're going to be president one day, but I just want them to know they can be the absolute best at whatever they choose to be.
You know,
And that,
yeah, Shannon, you know, when you talk about that, I can just see that there's so much value and love for your children. It's so important to you. So what I'm doing here is I've used some techniques. I've used powerful questions, which is what I'm asking her, right? I've championed her. I've talked about her values. And I'm actually moving to something we learn in coaching called fulfillment. There's a bigger picture here. If we did a 45-minute session, by the time we were done with a coaching session, she would be talking about the love that she has for her children, her family, and even where that came from. You know, and this is something I learned from going to coaching because I'm very bottom line guy. I'm like, okay, well, good. I'm glad you have a family. Nice. Let's move along. That's the way I came into this thing. But I feel that people actually like to talk to me more now that I've gone through a little bit of training where we have what's called level 1, level 2, and level 3 listening. If Shannon would have said, she said, my family, if I would have come back and said, Shannon, let me tell you about my family too. That's level 1. Level 1 means I'm bringing myself into the conversation. What I was doing with her is level 2, which allows her to be the center of the conversation. Level 3 is if Shannon and I were having a discussion at a restaurant and we just forgot that anybody else existed because we were just talking about her family and her love for kids and whatever, that's level 3. Again, these are very important for what, like the work that Juan and I do, is because many times I have to listen to a faculty member who's not happy about a scenario or student that is very unhappy about an instructor. And if I just interject and said, well, let me tell you about how I handled it when I was in a PhD. You see how that takes away from the point? Before you know it, the student goes, I want to get off this call as quickly as possible. So anyway, let me move along. Was that helpful? Okay, let me reshare here. So here's the CoActive model. The model is where we're going to go through here. People are creatively, natural, resourceful, and whole. Then I think the next time is focus on the whole person. And what I did with Shannon there, I used curiosity. Normally I would go like this. This is a training, it would be like, hey Shannon, I'm curious. I have an intuition or something. And you could be wrong, but it might just open up something, a conversation. So I was talking with, oh, by the way, one thing I didn't tell you, I had to do 100 hours of coaching to meet the certification. So over the last 6 months, I did 100 hours of coaching people that paid for the service. Now, because I was in training, I charged everybody $2.50 just because I need to give my hours. But it was hard at first because when I was asking questions like, well, so what's important to you about your family or something like that? And then I didn't know what I was going to say next, because I was scared about it. But we learn in coaching, be vulnerable. Ask the question, ask your students, ask your employees, what happens when you fail? You'll be surprised when you start learning about. I had one person I was coaching. I said, so what happens when that employee talks to you that way? And he started crying. He goes, you know what? It goes back to when I was 11 years old and I was never picked to be on a team. I was never picked. Not only was I not picked to be on a team, I was told why I wasn't picked, because you're a little scrawny kid who's going to ruin the game for us. He says, today, I want to prove everybody wrong. And he's got certificates like diplomas like I do in the back. He goes, I'm just trying to fit in and to be accepted. It's funny how that question went all the way back to when he was a little kid, right? And that's called taking a risk. Anyway, so this is the CoActive model. Just before I move along, any questions on the model? Any thought, any ideas, or anything you want to know about the program or anything that I can share at this point?
Jimmy, I found that people love to talk about themselves. So anytime that they have an opportunity and you give them that opportunity, however it comes about,
Yep.
They love it.
No, it's
You
very,
know? And just like with me, you ask me about me and how great I am, I can spend the whole day telling you. I mean, what the hell?
yeah, well, and I think that's a good point, Juan, because there's a lot of people that I was doing the coaching sessions with, and they would smile a lot because I was talking 10% of the time. And my questions, I mean, there was like, so what's there when that happens? How would you look at it differently? Well, if you were looking at it from a helicopter, here's one question we ask often. It's called a meta view. Imagine that you're on a helicopter and you're looking down at your situation. What do you see? It's funny when you change the perception, you see something totally different, right? Because when you're in it, you don't think about it. Anyway, so let's move along here. Okay, so I'm going to show you a workplace video about coaching, and I want to get your feedback now. I want to get your feedback whether this is effective coaching or not effective coaching. Okay, let me stop share. Share screen. All right, here we go. Effective or not, and just take a few notes as to what you would do differently if you don't mind.
Come on in, have a seat.
Oh, hey, Professor Jarvis, how are you?
Hello there.
It's good to see you again.
Go ahead and have a seat.
Thank you.
Let's see here. How are you today, Adam?
Yeah, Adam. I'm doing pretty well. I know.
Good. That's great. That's great. So I have it in the notes here that your team is the Bears. Did they score many goals this weekend?
Yeah, they had a few games and then they
Great. That's wonderful to hear. Let's see. We were somewhere last time. What were we working on last time?
We were talking about my delegation skills.
Your delegation skills, right, of course. So tell me, how's that going?
Well, I've taken a few opportunities to pass off some work and assign it to other colleagues, but I really find myself struggling with letting go of the whole deliverable and holding other people accountable.
Why? That seems like it should be pretty simple.
Well, I tried to check.
Look, before you go anywhere with this, let's go ahead and just take care of this problem. What I would do is the next time that you delegate something to someone, make sure that you pretty much cut off all contact with that person. Make sure that you ban them on email and don't take their phone calls. That'll make sure that you're not talking to them and having this problem that you're having that, frankly, I'm very surprised that you've gotten as far in your career as you have without being able to master this skill already. But that'll take care of it. I've done that before and that pretty much works for me.
Oh.
So in my notes from a few months ago said that you were looking to get a promotion. How's that going?
You know, that's actually going pretty well. I've been taking on a lot of extra responsibilities. I've been
Hello?
really looking
Okay.
into
Yes, thank you.
into taking on extra things.
Thursday at 5
Really
sounds
promoting myself through the eyes
okay.
of my
Yes,
supervisor.
thank you very much.
Been doing a lot of.
Great. That sounds awesome. So then if it's working, go ahead and keep up with that, and that'll work. I'm sure that's going to work out just fine. So it looks like that is pretty much our time. So what we would like to do at this point is I want you to read this book. It's a book on leadership that I wrote, and we'll just go ahead and get that onto your bill so you can pay that just over the next time and probably before your next appointment. So then if that's about time that we have today, so if you could drive safe and let me know if there's anything else that I can do for you.
Okay.
And go Broncos. And we'll
Broncos.
All right, so we went from Bears to the Broncos. All right, so, okay, so first of all, if thumbs up, thumbs down, effective coaching or not effective? A lot of thumbs down. All right, let's go through it, and just based on what we've talked so far, where was the misalignment?
Well, first of all, I'm a therapist, and I was watching that was painful. So when this guy is listening to respond,
Yes. When he was listening, remember he was on the phone too.
yes, he was distracted. Secondly, he was very derogatory when he talked about, when they were talking about him getting promotion, and it's like, I can't even believe, how did you even get there?
Yeah, that was like,
And it also sounds like he just didn't have time for what he is doing or his job. He doesn't care for it.
right.
There's no personal emotional touch to it. And he's like, okay, next.
Yep.
It's awful.
So as a therapist, you would not recommend this gentleman?
It's awful.
Okay, all right, let's have another perspective. Anybody else say, what could have been better?
I think everything could have been better.
Goodness, everything. Right?
Everything.
So
I mean,
tell me more, Brandy.
That's so unprofessional. He wasn't prepared. He didn't know his name. He didn't make eye contact. He didn't show any like modicum of sincerity or interest. He didn't have his best interest at heart. He just peddled off this book, and he was like, here, buy this thing from me.
Yeah.
He didn't care. He really, like, why would you want a coach or a therapist or even go talk to a professor? Why would you seek any kind of help or advice for someone who literally has no interest in helping you further your career or help yourself, or so I mean, it was terrible. It was really more insulting, and I think that would do more harm than good if anybody were actually in that scenario. I mean, it would just kind of tear you apart. I think.
Right. You wouldn't leave there and say, my life isn't going in a good direction here, right? I mean,
Oh no.
Yeah, and I think that as I thought about this a little bit, obviously it was meant to be bad coaching, but was there poor listening skills? Now here's
Was there any listening skills?
Yeah, no listening skill. Let me ask you this: in some form or fashion, any form or fashion, whether it's 1% to 100%, has this happened to you in a workplace situation?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's there when that happens? What do you feel for that company or that person? What do you feel?
Unimportant. Just
Makes me feel like, yeah, like you said, unimportant, and like
Unvalued.
mhm.
my opinion didn't count.
How many of you would you go the extra mile, work the weekends and everything for this company?
No.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I have a history of not being treated well and working extra hard. So yeah, I would.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yes, this was an extreme scenario. But just like all of you, I've worked in companies where some of that is there. And think about the impact. Let's just change it. All right. What might be something that if you were to advise this individual, it would improve his coaching like that or his ability to lead? What's one thing you would recommend?
Be nice, be courteous, be respectful, and you'll have a lot of better reaction from everyone.
Okay.
I
He
think
needs to
knowing
go back.
more
Sorry,
about the
go
person.
ahead. Sorry.
All right. Good. We're getting a lot of discussion. We're learning a lot of crosstalk. Nice. So where the thoughts here, he thought of himself and wanted others to think that too. That's Patricia. Brandy, be present. Okay. Dance in the moment, as we say in coaching, dance in this moment, right? Be with that person. Is there something about when someone walks into and you're working with that individual and you're just maintaining pleasant eye contact, you're not, can you tell quickly if someone is really engaged or not engaged with you? And I think that's what's important here is coaching, as we've learned, and it's really difficult sometimes is because, as a coach, by the way, coaching doesn't mean that this is one thing I didn't mention to you. I'm not going to start a coaching business. So I know that people say, well, what are you going to do this? You're going to become a business coach? No, but I felt that I would be better at teaching my courses like I am right now. And I'm teaching the PMP throughout the day by just being a better listener. Like I like to use that one question I said earlier. Well, why do you say that? What happens what happens when that situation arises? And all of a sudden students are more open to open up than if I said, okay, well, if that's difficult for you, then don't do it. You see, that's not being creative, resourceful, and whole, right? And so these techniques I found will help me in running my business and teaching my classes. I think they've been very helpful from that standpoint. Okay. All right, I think I had another item to show you, and it's just a slide deck. So let me share that. You should be back on my slide deck. Correct? So people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. And now I'm going to share just a couple bullets on what that means. So people are not broken and do not need to be fixed. What is that? How does that land when I say that? People are not broken and they don't need to be fixed.
It means that they come with natural, innate abilities to get to the highest level of potential if given a chance.
Yeah.
I believe, okay, yeah. If given a chance, almost everybody, when you put that, I was thinking about the modern psychologists who believe that we are naturally good. Just give us a chance.
Yeah.
Carl Rogers and so on. Those were their beliefs. Give them a chance, give them the tools and let them just fly.
Important word, tools, right? That means that now they have a toolkit to get work done, right? Okay, good. What about the second one? People have an innate capacity to develop, grow, make their own. I put that in caps. Own discoveries and recover and learn from their mistakes and failures. What would that mean to you if that's the way, when you were working in your organization, if that's the way things went? What would that mean to you? Anybody?
Means you can try things. You can try new things and not be afraid to fail, not be afraid to, lose your job or whatever. Yeah, it gives you the freedom.
Try things. You know, Shannon, that's a great point, because I know a lot of times when I was working at USA, when I was working at Shell Oil Company, I didn't want to try something because I figured somebody would be looking over my shoulder and says, why? And here's the other one. I sometimes hesitated to go ask my manager the same question twice, you know, when I first started, because I thought, my goodness, by now I'm supposed to figure this thing out. So as leaders and managers using these coaching skills, we are creating psychological safety in the meeting, saying, well, tell me more about that. What's difficult about it? You know, what can we do to help? And that's all part of this coaching mentality that has been effective in the work that I do. And the third one here, the world is filled with people who are aching to be championed. Do you agree with that? Yes or no? You know, I was reading article many years ago, but I still remember it. And that is that at some point, people no longer get compliments. And I don't know when that happens. I guess let's just use 18 when we're still in school because we're going to college. I mean, we're going to high school or whatever. For some people, it happens later, but there are people that once they reach the workforce, they can count on one hand the time that they were complimented for doing good work. Because most of the time, when do we hear from our managers most of the time?
When something's wrong.
Something is wrong. When something doesn't go according to plan. And say my son made it here. So Eric, are you there?
Yeah.
So again, most of the time people, we want to be championed. We want to be told that we're doing a good job. Not that we're perfect, but hey, listen, that was a good try. I used to have a manager a long time ago, and he used something like informal coaching, I would call it. You know, if I didn't do something he liked, he would come up to me right away at the hallway or wherever to my little office, and he would say, hey Jimmy, on this, you know, here's the way I would have, here's the way I want you to think about this. Take this perspective, look at it from this angle. And that was his way of coaching me. He also would come up to me and say, hey, listen, I just love the way you did that. You know, when you responded to that customer, that was exactly what we wanted to hear. Now, it's different from when somebody says, what happens when your manager sends you an email and says, hey, I want to see you Friday at 4 p.m. I'm scheduling a meeting. What do you think?
Dread.
Terrified.
Right? Because here's the thing. It might be okay. The conversation might be productive, but I also think that if I don't do well, somehow it's going to go into my record somehow. Right? It's going to be documented somewhere. But when somebody informally approaches me and says, hey, this is what I think you could do better, I don't think it's going to go on my record. Plus, I really have respect for that individual for not embarrassing, right? For not taking it to an extreme. All right, so this is the idea of being championed and being resourceful and whole. All right, so here are powerful questions. We're not going to do a Zoom breakout because we're not going to do a Zoom breakout. That's why. But the point here is these are questions. I have a list of all these questions that we have as we're coaching. So I will ask these questions. So think about the question. How do you show your creativity? Why is that an important question? What can that lead? What might happen after I ask somebody that question?
They start believing that they are creative.
They open up that creativity side, right? Because now they're thinking, oh, how do I do that? Now, if you're coaching now, one thing that I would mention is don't worry about what the individual says. If they say, I'm creative when I'm working with our church ministry. Okay, tell me more about that. Because, you know, they're using those same creativity skills at work. They're just maybe not accentuating them. They're not as evident or they haven't been championed enough yet. What about the second one? What is possible when you are resourceful? So what if somebody asks you that question? Think about it, whether you're a parent, worker, XYZ. If somebody says, what is possible when you are resourceful? Somebody answer that question for me.
Anything is possible.
All right. So as a coach, I would say, let's think about a situation, and then you would dive into that situation, because there you can explore explore. And as a coach, I would say something like this. Hey, listen, let's explore that a little bit. Can we explore that? And all of a sudden this player, yeah, let's do that. Because as you guys were saying earlier, many times nobody ever asks you that, right? They say, okay, great, I got a meeting in 2 minutes, so but write it down, and we'll get back to you. When do they get back to you?
Never.
You have the same manager I do, Kevin? I'm just joking. So how does your decision making improve when you are whole? Okay, now think about the big picture here. Whole. Okay, just follow with me here. So with your arms, show me how you do whole. You're whole now. How does that look? Up here, whole. Whole here. Everybody's different, see? In coaching, we even use close your eyes and picture a time you were whole. Now, I'll tell you, that's very difficult for me because I'm like really get down to business kind of guy. So when they were coaching me, oh, by the way, I had to go through coaching too. So I had to do coaching, and then we did triads like we're doing here, like groups, and we would do coach. And somebody would say, okay, Jimmy, can you close your eyes? And I was like, okay, here I go. I don't want to do this. And so then they would say, now tell me what's there when you're whole. What's happening? What do you feel? Where do you feel it? You see, for people like me who are business owners, like get things done, those are hard things to do, but they're important things to do. We even had one trainer who was training somebody else who said, well, what makes you happy? And she said, dancing. And then they started dancing on Zoom. And then during that dance, they were talking, they were just talking about it. Why is that important? And it was kind of a cool thing because you see people that can be themselves when you're here. So follow-up questions that we ask is what else is there? Those are when you're coaching or when you're working with your team members. Say somebody says, well, it's just that I really like it whenever, I'm given more responsibility. And you can say, what's there? What's there for you? Why is that important to you? Try not to use the whys. I just made a mistake there. See, the why question is solution oriented. Try to use the what, the how. How is not solution oriented. And then whenever I get in trouble coaching, I didn't know what to say. I always said, tell me more, because it gave me a chance to try to come up with something else because I didn't know what to ask. So, but again, just look at these questions here. How often are we asked these questions in the workplace? Not often. Even think about a performance appraisal. I still remember the performance appraisal where I walked into this meeting and my manager was waiting for me and he said, hey, Jimmy, I just want to tell you, there's an item here where you're pretty weak. I'm sure you know about it, right? I said, Tom, I don't know anything about it. It's the first time I heard of it. But thank you for letting me know. It'd be nice if I'd have known about it 6 months ago. I could have done something about it. Anyway, so these are fun questions to ask. I have a list of questions that we go through. And so here's my homework inquiry for when I see you again. Hopefully I'll see you in the next session. Think about this question. Where do I limit myself? Where do I limit myself? I think that's a great question for us to ponder and think about. And the next session is April 20th, which I believe is 2 weeks from now, something like that, Kevin? So I will tell you that it's been a great learning experience. More than anything, I've learned from this session to be vulnerable. And, coming into these programs, I told you I was a college basketball referee, type A personality. We're not trained to admit wrong. As a referee, we're trained to admit right all the time. So coming in, being vulnerable, and I found that by being vulnerable, you show humility, and people generally appreciate you better when you're humble than when you're arrogant. So, anyway, those are my thoughts on that. There was something else I was going to say. Well, I do write Kevin knows this, I write a weekly blog. So if you're interested, we can add you to the list. I write on topics regarding coaching, regarding Scrum, regarding career management, different things. Any questions at this time? Questions, thoughts?
Jimmy, while people are kind of getting their thoughts together, I know sometimes they might not have a question immediately, but I do want to say thank you for your time. I feel 2 pages worth of information here but because I think it's so valuable while we keep contextualizing what you're talking about within a workplace environment. You know, it's how you coach people and build them up and get them to achieve and believe in themselves and have a safe, trusting environment. You know, I bet those same techniques work in marriage.
They do.
I bet those same techniques work in friendships as well. You know what I mean? It's not unique to just my supervisor and me. And everything that you mentioned just sounds like good communication skills, you know, and just giving people the time and the attention that they're important and coming prepared. I would have to say some of the behaviors that we discussed, I felt that I may have been the perpetrator at times. And it wasn't because I didn't consider the person important. You know me enough to know I put people first. But it could also be at that particular moment, it was a very, you know, overwhelming couple of weeks of work with a number of fires and other things going on. And this person was pre-scheduled and I may not have had as much time to, you know, prepare and to put effort into it because all my time was being consumed and everything else that was happening in 10-hour days. So I wonder if the environment sometimes forces people to become people that they weren't before they went into the environment. So I may have started off looking at people holistically and knowing they're resourceful and treating people that way, but then I go into an environment where that's not happening.
Yeah.
And I feel like an outcast. And if I say something, then it's almost mob rule and peer pressure will just say that's not the way we do it. You know, the questions you were asking are so powerful, Jimmy, but I truly cannot think of very many CEOs of very important businesses who are going to sit down and take that care about knowing who you are and what you do and if you like to dance and who your children are and what your pets' names are. They're not going to go through that. They are always going to be driven. Did you get this done on time?
Yep.
Because $1 million decisions are based on you getting done. $1 million decisions are not based on your pet's name. Do you know what I mean? And so in a practical world, unfortunately, I think people will gravitate to the less effective one and not always towards the human one, which makes the difference in the world when we realize that we're all humans, that nothing else gets in the way when you can lift up the human, you know?
I think that, Kevin, you know, one thing that I did was remember there were 5 classes. There's fulfillment, balance, process, fundamentals, and synergy, the 5 classes. So it was just an effective thing. So I recommended it to my wife and she's taking all 5 of the classes. She's not going to do the certification, but she's using all of these skills, and she just was appointed to lead one of her faith groups at the church. And she's using all these skills in that environment, totally different from work environment. So it's beneficial. By the way, fundamentals, which is the very first class, is it's $985, I think, but you can take it, and if you don't like it, you get your money back, and then you don't have to continue with the program.
Have you taught your son all these great things, Jimmy?
I'm very careful with what I say because it usually has a $ attached to it. So, yeah, and so I think Eric knows about it, but Caitlin, our daughter in Houston, also. I mean, I would pay for our kids to take it just because I find it a valuable skill.
Jimmy, do you ever, now what we're talking about again is more of a dynamic. It's me interacting with another individual, whether that be my spouse, my friend, my coworker, a stranger on the bus, right? Are any of these techniques also self-help techniques? Like, could I inflect them towards something I may personally be struggling with and want to achieve to a goal, and I just start questioning myself and getting myself, you know, engaged in conversation?
Yeah, so initially I took the program mostly partly for that reason. So we go through something called fulfillment, which is one of our main practices. And that is, you know, what makes me fulfilled? So based on this training, one of the things that I came out from, 2 things that happened, 2 things. And Eric has seen some of these. One of the things is I was very scared or nervous about doing prayer with our family. I just thought I thought I would mess it up. And my coach helped me be able to do prayer at the table, to be able to lead a prayer with people I didn't know. I thought that was important. The second thing that was really important was thinking, where am I going to go? So I had my coaching session my last one about a month ago. And I mentioned to my coach, she said, well, Jimmy, so where do you want to be 5 years from now? And I told her, this is where I want to be. I want to have a good work-life balance. And I said, 5 years from now, I'm going to do it. And she goes, what's possible this year? Think that question, right? Why 5 years? Because knowing me at 5 years, you know what I'm going to be saying? I want to do that 5 years from now. And again, so Kevin, from there, I created this pie, and 50% of my life is work and 50% is faith and family. If I can get really close to that, and I'll give you another quick pointer. If you would ask me 5 to 10 years ago, I said, how do you measure success? And somebody asked me that in a training program the other day. And I said, normally 5, 10 years ago, I would have told you, well, my KPIs, my income, today, if you ask me that question is, are my wife and I still happy with one another? And am I a good father and husband? That's it. I mean, really everything else takes care of itself.
Jimmy, you talked about that pie where half is work and half is family and faith. You left a piece of the pie out.
Well, I knew you were going to say something. What's that?
Self. You've got to give self attention and care. And I know maybe that's scooped into the family and stuff, but it really isn't. It is an individual entity with that pie that I think hits on what you're talking about. And I mean, as you were given that presentation, there was things that I was sitting there writing down, asking myself, where do I limit myself, for example, was one of your questions, and that really made me stop and think, where are the areas where I don't apply myself and I could, maybe I'm lazy sometimes. It's okay, to sometimes just want to relax in life too and not just constantly be driven. You don't know what that means, Jimmy.
We'll see.
You don't know what that means to relax. I mean, you're constantly training yourself. I mean, you're going through so many certifications that for you to turn that off will be a challenge to you the day you're going to have to slowly do that. You're not going to be able to do that immediately.
Kevin,
such a powerful message.
Kevin, there's a question I want to answer. Are there people who are not coachable by Patricia? Mental health conditions. So this is an interesting point, is that we're taught in the coaching program not to go into the therapy side. Now, therapists tend to do a really good job in coaching, but we who are coaches are not good therapists because we don't have the skill set. So FYI. So that's a good thing about coaching. Coaching, when we walk out, we want to have them thinking that there's a possibility. If you can look at it from that perspective. All right. Any other questions?
Just real quickly, Jimmy, before you get off, I do want to remind everybody, like Jimmy said, in 2 more weeks will be part 2. So you may have showed up and think, well, there's more information here, and that's true. There is. Jimmy was just laying the foundation for what the rest of CoActive teaching will build off of, and that is, focusing on the whole person and that they're resourceful. And then the next 3 series will constantly build. That's the way the speaker series works. In the colloquium, it was a 1-day event, 1 hour, and you're done. The speaker series is a recursive event. It's really one giant event that's been broken into 4 parts, because Jimmy's really talking about one topic here, and it just takes him 4 hours to talk about it, and we got 1 hour of it today.
For those of you, Kevin, sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
So this is the first time I've delivered that talk. Okay, I created it over the weekend. So if there's something that you thought, hey, I wish you would have done more of that, less of that, just send me an email and I'll be happy to keep improving the presentations.
And I do want to emphasize, everybody, please reach out to Jimmy, because that blog newsletter that he sends around, it comes out quite frequently. It's once a week, but it seems like it's several times a week, maybe. So he's prolifically publishing, the stuff that he's learning, and he's sharing that. They're just really good, moments to sit and think of some of the questions that he'll pose. So please ask him to include you on that. Jimmy, I want to finish on something that I know that I learned from you from this, and that are the listening levels. Mm-hmm. I'm not always really good at listening, and it's because I talk too much. And it's because my brain gets very active. You know me, it's popcorning right now. 1,000 things are springboarding in there and bouncing around in my head. And for me to filter through is sometimes challenging. So for me to have to listen, I'll never, unless I'm note taking down every popcorn that popped off in my head, I will have already moved past that and then miss out on some important stuff I might have should have asked, but I will pay attention more so to stop being level 1 and being more level 2. And level 3 seems to be almost a transcendence of those two people in an environment where the environment just disappears. It's just those two are in the moment and are totally, that's the environment. It's just the other person. It's not the space. And balance was another key word that popped up repeatedly. And that is, that's how we get unhealthy, right? When things are out of balance, and unhealthiness can be our relationships with coworkers and so forth. So.
And just, I was listening to a TED talk yesterday, and I have to listen to a lot of things to pick up ideas for my blogs, right? So I picked up something that will be a future blog. I'll put it in here. But I thought this would be something that's a good thing to leave the session with, is our brains will never be fully realized until we are part of a healthy group. And so today, all of you are here, and I commend you for being here because you're part of a healthy group. We are here because we're trying to learn, and we're not closing off those barriers. So thank you for your time. And
remember Maslow, and self-actualization is the top of that pyramid. And that's what you're talking about here, is being fully realized in a whole person, and achieving what we want to be fulfilled. So Dr. Flores, thank you again for the topic, and we will see everybody in a couple of weeks. I'll post this on the website and send this around to everybody as well.
thank you,
Excellent.
Thank you, Brother Jeff. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you. That was good.